All right, we are at 3:30. Laura, we good on staff? I see Councilmember Coombs and Councilmember Medina. Sounds like we're ready to get going.
We are ready to go on the staff side.
Awesome. All right then, let's do it. Let's call the meeting to order. And first order of business is the approval of the November 29th, 2023 meeting. I was absent, so I will be abstaining, but Councilmember Coombs, Councilmember Medina, do you have any changes or edits you'd like to make?
None from me.
The only non-content change I would request is the spelling of my name.
I think
the
that's
Y.
I think that's the November one, but the January ones have been changed. I just want to make sure we're looking at January 2024 meeting.
Are we approving November or January? Because the agenda says November.
The agenda for today's meeting has January on there.
Yeah, that's what was attached. I think we did November with your name fixed.
Okay. Am I just on the wrong agenda? Ha. That is very possible. I was like, what are you talking about? There we go. All right, y'all, I apologize. I was in the wrong agenda, which, by the way, in eScribe, it's still not showing up. So I know that y'all tried to address that, but it's still not updating for whatever reason. Yes. Any changes to the meeting? And I do see name corrected on this new one.
All good on my end.
All right, I looked at the wrong one, so let me just take a scan real quick. Yep. All right, I have no changes either. So meeting minutes are as approved as written. All right. Any announcements for the good of the whole? Seeing none. Are there any consent items we need to discuss?
No consent items today.
All right. Let's move into new business with the first presentation from the Historic Preservation State Income Tax Credit Program.
Scott, would you like me to share, or would you like to share your screen?
You know what? If you can share that'd be wonderful.
Happy
I appreciate it.
Just let me know when you want me to move to the next slide, please.
Okay, thank you. All right. While Ines is getting that up, well, good afternoon, City Council members of the PR Plus Policy Committee and all present at the meeting today. Good to see everybody. As Councilmember Murillo was saying, I am here to speak about, and first I'll introduce myself again. I think everybody knows me, but my name is Scott Williams. I am the director of the Aurora History Museum and Historic Sites Program. It is my pleasure to speak with you all today. My meeting agenda item is covering the Historic Preservation State Income Tax Credit Program, and it's a resolution. And before I move on, I'd like to provide background about this resolution. In 2019, the Aurora Historic Sites and Preservation Office received approval from Aurora City Council to put forth a resolution pertaining to the Historic Preservation Commission to act as the reviewing entity for the state income tax program for historic landmark owners. And so today I've come before you to really give you the purpose of that. And so this agenda item is all about really the Historic Preservation Office. We request the review and the approval of City Council to repeal the old resolution from 2019 that's a part of the agenda packet. And that's pertaining to the Historic Preservation Commission to act as the reviewing entity for state income tax program or historic tax income applicants for historic landmark owners, and really to provide authorization to the State Historic Preservation and History Colorado to act as the reviewing entity for the state income tax program for qualifying rehabilitation projects with a newly revised revision. So in short, why I'm here today is we want to repeal the old 2019 resolution and put forth a new resolution giving the reviewing authority back to History Colorado. And really the reason and justification for that is, frankly, the city of Aurora, we here at the Historic Preservation Office here, we've received a very low number of tax credit applicants over the past 10 years. And really in 2021, the certified local government audit, of which the city of Aurora is a certified local government that allows state tax credits, recommended that we give back that authority, the state tax credit authority, to the State Historic Preservation Office. Furthermore, I think the approval of this resolution will provide increased benefit of streamlining, frankly, our workflow right now. We have an historic preservation specialist who's on the presentation or the meeting today, Chris Geddes, and then myself, and then we have an historic preservation assistant. I think streamlining some of that workflow and giving that to the SHPO's office at this point seems like a good idea. If you can go to the second slide, please. Thank you. So one of the things that I just want to describe the state tax credit program. So the federal and state tax laws provide tax incentives for historic preservation projects that follow the Secretary of Interior standards. And these credits allow taxpayers to reduce on a dollar-for-dollar basis the amount of income tax they owe to the government. The amount of credit then can be obtained and is calculated as a percentage of the overall rehabilitation costs with the associated project. I just wanted to go over a little bit more of what the benefits are and what the tax credit program is. And it's a great incentive tool, a great tool for historic landmark owners in Aurora to find help and encourage renovation and rehabilitation and reuse of structures and to preserve Aurora's history, of course, for future generations. One of the few examples of the application of the state tax credits is Stanley Marketplace. As you can see in my slide right there, it was almost a $26 million project to get that off the ground, and they applied and received $2 million, a little bit over $2 million with their state tax credit. And of course, there's a criteria that landmark owners, residential landmark owners, and then of course, commercial tax credits as well. And I think in my packet, I also have an infographic if you have some further questions there, but I'm going to be short and sweet. This concludes my presentation of this item. And please let me know if you need further information about the state tax credit program, what this resolution means or is, and are there any questions at this time?
I can't see everyone's screen, so I'm going to just make another verbal ask. Councilmember Coombs, Councilmember Medina, do y'all have any questions? If so, feel free to unmute yourself and chime in.
Yes, I have just a quick question. Would there be any kind of issues for the property owners in terms of delays to the process or being able to access the credit that might result in not having it go through the city's commission? And then also, are there kind of is there any specialized knowledge that our commission may have that might lend toward them being better suited to provide this service?
Thanks for the question, Councilmember Coombs. Excellent question. To answer your first part, I think in terms of streamlining, if there's going to be delays, Chris Geddes, our historic preservation specialist, and myself would be involved if there was a landmark owner, whether that be residential or commercial. We would be involved with the SHPO's office, but having them go directly to Sarah, and my previous slide, Sarah Capel, having them go directly to them, it actually could potentially even streamline that process further. But there would be, since this is in the city, we would be, involved. Chris Geddes would be involved on that too. So I don't foresee any, delays or anything of that nature. And then, in terms of specialized knowledge or history from the Historic Preservation Commission members, I also feel like if there was a need, we have a great relationship with the State Tax Credit Office. And I know Chris Geddes has a great relationship with the SHPO's office, especially with Sarah Capel. So I don't foresee, again, if there was any specialized knowledge about the history or otherwise, they would be in direct communication with us, as we are, I wouldn't say on a daily basis we're in communication with the SHPO's office, but it's not a week that goes by that we're doing something or are involved in a project that involves the city of Aurora. So hopefully that answers your questions. But if you have anything else, be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I add one thing to that?
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
I would also say that since the State Historic Preservation Officer, the SHPO, since they review all the federal tax credits, they have a conduit into the state tax office and the people who review those. And so they're really up to date on all of the policies and any changes to state tax credit review. And so I think it does help the owners get the full tax credit benefit as far as what are qualified rehabilitation costs as they continue to add new items. And there's a bill going through the state legislature right now to increase the amount that people can claim for tax credit. And so again, just having all of that knowledge and when percentages change will benefit the homeowner. Thank you.
Councilmember Murillo, I don't have any questions at this time.
Okay. All right. Well then, thank you very much for the presentation. I also don't have any questions, but I learned some things today. Let's see, are you asking to move this forward?
Yes.
Yes.
We would definitely like to move this forward in the process.
Awesome. I am a support to move this forward. Councilmember Medina?
Yes.
Councilmember Coombs?
Yes.
Wonderful. All righty. Thank you for your time. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. I believe our next presentation is the Library and Cultural Department update / year plan. And we have Ginger, who is new to the team, presenting. Ginger or Laura, did you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. I can introduce Ginger. I know we had some technical difficulties in the last PR Plus committee. So very excited to officially introduce Ginger White-Brunetti to you all. Ginger started with the city in February. So in the last 2 months has really hit the ground running with the Library and Cultural Services Department, and am bringing her here today to provide an update on the department, some changes that have been made, and also talk about what's next. So Ginger, take it away.
Great. Thanks, Laura. I'm delightful to be here. I'm excited to have a chance to see you all and look forward to the opportunity to talk further, not just obviously in the course of this presentation, but in future meetings. I know Councilmember Murillo, we have a lunch coming up, I believe, next week. So looking forward to that and invite all other council members to also do the same. So we'll go to the next slide, please. So I designed this presentation in 3 chapters, no pun intended, when it comes to, or actually pun intended, when it comes to library and cultural services. Really wanted to give you a quick introduction about myself, and hopefully my background and some of the expertise that I'll be bringing to the role, and hopefully you'll see over the course of my time with City of Aurora. And then, I got a bug in here. And then a little bit about my onboarding plan, which I had shared with Laura and Jason when I started, and then where we are in some current and future initiatives, just as I've been thinking about how to support and grow library and cultural services to support Aurora residents. So we'll go to the next slide, please. Thanks, Ines. So just real quickly, a little bit about me. I most recently served as the executive director for Denver Arts and Venues. I have a long career in public sector and public services, which is where my heart is. I worked as I have a master's degree in urban planning. And so I really come to this work from a place of how do we build, create, and foster thriving communities. I'm really thinking about ways in which we can support quality of life and enrich the experience of both residents and visitors across the City of Aurora, and thinking specifically about the places that we manage as how are we ensuring that they're welcoming and accessible for everyone across our community. And that's really what attracted me to this role, is the variety of the assets that Library and Cultural Services manages, and then therefore the people that we engage with daily across our branches, Bookmobile, Aurora History Museum, as you just heard from Scott on our team, to the Aurora Fox, to the Bicentennial Art Center. It's just a really dynamic portfolio of things that we get to do and engage with the community on. In addition to being, a working public sector employee, I'm also a wife and mom. I've lived in various places, and this is a slide actually from my first town hall that we had with the team back in March. And so describing what our perfect day was. And so that's something that I've been engaging as I've gone out and talked to the team, finding out what their perfect day is, because it's a fun way to kind of create that icebreaker and rapport and learn a little bit more about what motivates them in the course of their day. So we'll go on to the next slide. So as I mentioned, when I came to the City of Aurora, I developed a 120-day, what I called onboarding plan. And this was in partnership with Laura, who obviously wanted to ensure that I was getting to know elected officials, other city staff, and my colleagues in other departments. But the purpose of this was really to create a roadmap so that I was taking advantage as best I could. This what I'll call really precious time in anybody's, when anybody starts a new role, is, especially a role that has a community focus, because that's really where you want to build trust, not only with your team and across city departments, but with the community as well. So set out to create that program or that plan that helped to establish those relationships, build new relationships, and also really reveal the priorities of what the department can and should be doing as we get beyond these 120 days. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. We'll go on to the next slide. So there are areas of focus in my community, or my 120-day plan, is community engagement, thinking about people and culture, and organizational fundamentals. And I look like I'm frozen. Am I frozen? Can you hear me?
We can still hear you, Ginger.
Okay, you can hear me. Okay. All right. Well, hopefully I'm not in an awkward pose in my my screen. So again, going back to my areas of focus: community engagement, people and culture, and organizational fundamentals. And so again, ensuring that I'm starting to get out into the community, both through our boards and commissions, but also more broadly, and making those and building those relationships People and culture, really looking internally. I've been holding focus groups across the organization, going to different sites. Everything from Talon's Reach to the Bicentennial, which where I'll be tomorrow, to the Bicentennial Center where I was last week. And meeting with the staff to really understand, what are our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, where there are opportunities to grow, what are their aspirations over the next 5 years, and building that out. And then, of course, understanding organizational fundamentals, org charts, budgets, those sorts of things. We'll go to the next slide, Inez. Oh, I'm not sure I can see the next slide.
Current and future initiatives.
Okay, thanks. I can see, okay, thank you. I can see it. I pulled it up on my screen, so I'll follow along that way. So again, going back to chapter 3, thinking about, what are we doing now, and where are there opportunities to make some moves early in my tenure, but also where are those opportunities in the near future as we think about some of the goals that this division had prior to my joining. So going on to the next slide, just for council members' clarification, and with the help of Laura, prior to me joining the city, we did do a bit of a reorganization, and you probably know Joe McNeil, who is our now Deputy Director of Library Services. She is overseeing all aspects of library services and operations. So all of the various branches, as well as our programs and outreach team, the bookmobile is an example, our facilities team, and our technology and collections team. And then I am directly overseeing not just her, but also our team at the Aurora Fox, the History Museum, our public art program, our cultural arts program, our communications, marketing, and culture team, and our finance team. And those are just some of the things that we've done. And I want to pause here and thank council for your support of adding 5 additional positions to our library team. That's been really instrumental in ensuring that we have some of the service levels across the system that were desperately needed. So thank you in advance, or thank you for that.
I would just add that Councilmember Coombs was a really staunch advocate for the department. So I want to give her kudos. Yes, I supported it, but she was really on the back end doing a lot of work to support the team. So just to uplift that work behind the scenes.
Well, thank you for calling that out, and thank you for being such an advocate on behalf of the library and really the team at the library who was feeling the crunch. So thank you. So we'll go to the next slide, Inez. So we have a current annual library plan that the team is executing and working on. I think one of the things with the addition of those 5 positions is really getting that staff trained and up level them to to deliver those services at the expectations that we seek, and really strengthening our core library services. And so anything from our technology program, we've got some new software for better service delivery and search capability. So that's exciting. Joe is spending a lot of time with the team talking about what are programs that should happen system-wide, and then what are those things that are very unique to each branch and the neighborhood and the community that surrounds that branch. And so thinking about programmatically, how do we deliver the right programs, that meet the needs of those unique communities. And then, as I mentioned, we're spending a lot of time, and Joe and team reviewing and updating library policies and procedures. And I will just say this is a little bit kind of where we are philosophically as an organization, and I'll share some more about this later, but we've got some fundamentals that we want to get, sort of back into place. And as I've been saying, we need to crawl before we can walk, before we can run. And so this is an example of that kind of thinking and strategy. We'll go on to the next slide. So current capital improvements, some exciting things that are happening across our portfolio at the Aurora Fox. We're in the process of working closely with our facilities team to update our seats at the Fox and carpet and do some other ADA improvements and HVAC improvements. And many thanks to Laura here for identifying that as an opportunity for improvement. You'll see it later in the deck, but we've got an exciting moment later this summer to celebrate the rehab of our historic Fox Theater neon sign. And kudos to Chris and Scott for their work on making that possible. But it's going to be really exciting to have that sign done and lit and historically, beautiful and accurate. At the Central Library, we have our federal earmark for our youth area and some technology improvements. So we're going to start working on a facilities plan that really thinks about what kind of service provisions we want to have at this library and at the Central Library, and how does that flow through these, or how do these dollars help us make that a reality? And then in addition, we also have $250,000 for our large community room renovation. And so thinking about that and the technology improvements that are needed to make that singular space just better from a user standpoint. At the MLK Library, we're very excited. We finished the designs for the second floor renovation and hoping that we can go into construction either at the very end of this year or starting in first quarter of next year. We want to get past the election, since that's an election site, before we go into any kind of construction. But that will be a great space for additional community instruction and STEM technology, looking at having a 3D printer as an example in that second floor. And then currently we've got Talon's Reach. We've got an interior paint project that's happening there right now, and then a carpet replacement project that will be happening down the road. So definitely some great things that are happening to really improve the user experience and across our facilities. So we'll go to the next slide. So future initiatives. So you all know well, because you approved the plan, that we have a cultural plan called Aurora Ahead. And so one of the things that we're going to start doing this summer is thinking about what does that implementation strategy look like. I know we'll be spending time this Saturday at the workshop talking about the overall Aurora strategic plan. And so we want to be thoughtful about how the cultural plan nests and ladders up to the citywide strategic plan. So wanting to take some time for that to get caught up to where we are with the cultural plan. We also are going to be engaging in a new library strategic plan. In fact, Joe and I met with Denver Public Library city librarian Michelle Jeske this morning and talked a little bit about their process and how that also formulated some ideas that then rolled into their master plan for their central library. So really trying to think about how we can do that in a way that's thoughtful and intentional, and also has a community voice as part of that. And then lastly, thinking about our capital planning. We've got some great ideas and opportunities, again, across the portfolio, looking at some of our other library branches, and also potentially with Meadowood as a cultural hub for our dance program in particular. So those are some of the things that were that are on the horizon for the department at this point, with more priorities coming as I have these conversations with the team. But real quickly, going to the last slide here, I just wanted to flag some things that are happening across library and cultural services that I hope will pique your interest, and perhaps we'll have a chance to see you there. I think some of you are joining us tonight for the Aurora Scholars. This is night 2 of 3. I need to get my voice back because I was at the event last night as an MC. So I need to have some lemon tea, honey lemon tea, I think. We also will be kicking off next month our summer jams and storytime program. May 4th is going to be an exciting day at the MLK Library. We've got our 20th anniversary celebration with a lot of activities that will be happening in and around the library. And then what I was mentioning earlier about the Fox lighting is we're having a ceremony to actually mark the occasion and flip the switch on the new historic sign or the rehabbed historic sign, and it'll take place the same night as the opening of the Lightning Thief, which is one of our second shows at the Fox. And so hopefully you'll be able to come and join us for that. We have complimentary tickets for council members. Then also on June 1st, we'll be kicking off our Summer of Imagination, which you all know is our summer reading program. And then also this summer kicking off Aurora Rhythms, which goes through till the end of the year. So hopefully that's a fun snapshot of some of the things that our team is working on. Obviously, we're getting ready to get into our busy season that goes into the fall. I'm sure I don't know exactly when there's a quiet season here, but it's exciting and I'm really grateful to be part of the team. So with that, hopefully maybe I'll go off camera and try to unfreeze my camera, but happy to take any questions.
Council members, Coombs, Medina, do you have any questions or comments?
I have no questions for me, but welcome, Ginger, and thank you so much for kind of just laying out and sharing that plan. There's a lot of exciting stuff happening.
Thank you.
I just have a couple questions.
Yeah.
Welcome, Ginger, and glad to see you're there. I know you come highly recommended. I've been in a couple circles of people that know you very well, and so they were kind of disheartened that you left Denver, but I said, hey, well, hopefully we got the better deal of that, right? So, so
Thank you.
glad to see you. Yeah, just a couple things on Meadowood. Are you looking at making that whole facility dance facility?
Well, yeah, the team, we met yesterday to talk through some of the different options, and we certainly would love to make that a home for the dance program, the Aurora dance program, but not exclusive to dance. So there could be, depending on, what kind of improvements we can make based on budget and other things, it could be a place for music, theater, potentially rehearsal space for the community to use. So there's a lot of potential there. It boils down to perhaps some phased improvements that allow us to do more things to make it, truly a 7-day-a-week kind of facility.
Okay. Yeah, and we'll need to catch up, I think, as well, because I'm pushing a thing around a youth center specifically for youth teens. And so, yeah, one of the aspects I'd like to have in there is some kind of arts in there as well, whether it be dance or music or a combination of all of those. So I'd like to sit down with you and kind of hash out, what that would look like for you to have some things that are exclusive to that as well. So I want to make sure that you're aware of that. Yeah, and then the last question is just on the opening night, you said you had tickets. Is there a possibility that I could give my tickets away and then I'll purchase my own? I just have a thing with just giving it to community members, and so if it's, I would just prefer to do that and then just donate, obviously, like everybody else to the cause.
Yeah, let me, I don't see why not, but let me check and see where we are with sales, because we've set aside seats for council members and then commissioners and other VIPs across, our various boards and commissions. And so I don't want to give away your tickets and then you don't have actually a way to buy a ticket. So, so can I get back to you on that?
Sure, not a
Okay,
problem.
great.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Great.
Thanks, Councilmember Medina. And thank you, Ginger, for the presentation. I was reviewing the great introduction that Laura made earlier this year about your experience and background. And I was definitely excited to see, some of the work that you've done locally and just kind of generally your experience. So I'm looking forward to what you can bring to the department. I know we're a little bit different than Denver, but I mean, I think we're better, but I'll let you be the judge of that.
No, I was gonna say it's been great so far. The team here is amazing. Everyone seems really energized, and I'm just like, I think there's a lot of possibility, and that's what excites me. So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think I really like your approach as far as the like the work that you're doing. Definitely a lot of work and understanding that needs to happen, you as a new person, but also like under new leadership, like what does that look like to kind of build that cohesive team, and really liked to see that your approach in that regard. I think my only question, maybe this is a Laura question, not sure, but I know that we're kind of in the process of investigating kind of the art venues and all of that across the city. Like, at what point, or is Ginger going to be involved in that discussion? Like, what's the intersection look like?
Oh, Ginger's in the front seat of that conversation. Yes. She's part of the project team. Certainly, the city proper, so Ginger mentioned rehearsal space. There are some needs within cultural services that we're talking about as part of the broader needs conversation as well in relation to the venue. So absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I thought I like caught some of that in like just the way that she was talking about like some of the programming. So good to hear that that you are intimately involved, Ginger.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's exciting thing to be part of. So thank you. And yeah, I think there's, again, I'll put that in the lot of exciting possibilities column. So thank you.
Absolutely. No other questions. I'll just say like I have my town hall that's going to be hosted at the Aurora Fox tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to it. And the director also really dynamic. Got to meet with them, or I think it was late last year. Either way, just really exciting energy all around. And I love to see that the Fox is also like engaging really on a community level, like that they're hosting the hidden gems documentary that the AEOC, like a long time like nonprofit leader in the Ward 1 area. So yeah, I'm really excited to see, from my vantage point, like I'm seeing some of that like energy kind of translate in the different like hats that I'm wearing, right?
Great. Well, I'm glad to hear that too. And hopefully this isn't a theme where sometimes technology fails me on these meetings. So look forward to hopefully meeting you all soon in person so I can actually have like a real, face-to-face conversation and not a technology glitch, creating a problem. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll have that lunch set up. So we're good to go. And yeah, would encourage other folks to do that as well. All right. Anything else? I think we're good to go on this agenda item. Thank you again for your time and your presentation.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to the next presentation from the Veteran Affairs Commission. It's their annual report and program request is the official title.
Hi. If it's okay with you, I've updated the slides on some things that have occurred since this set was sent. And if I can share my desktop, and then I will send you the slides after. I would like to comment, though, on the previous discussion and ask that if Ginger has a few minutes to share with me, I would love to talk to her about some veteran issues that I just came to mind while she was talking that might fit into her agenda. So I hope we'll have a chance to do that. Okay, share my desktop. Here we go. Window there, share. Okay, you should be seeing slides. Is that correct? Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Thanks very much for, so I'm Ralph Charlotte. I am the chair of the commission again this year. I'm going to talk about these 5 things: who we are. I want to talk about the appointments process, some things that have happened since 2023, 2024, specific requests for some council support, and then of course happy to have questions. We have 12 members, 11 are voting, 1 are an alternate. We don't have 12 members. We haven't had 12 members except for a period of about a week in the 4.5 years I've been on the commission. When we thought we had 12 a month or so ago, like the next day, we had somebody resign. So we have 2 openings right now. We're going to have a 3rd one on May 3rd, and then we'll have 4 openings on July 4th. There are 3 pending nominations that will come before City Council on the 20th of May. We hope you will approve them. 2 are for an immediate appointment that would start on the 20th of May and run for the rest of the 6 weeks, and then also for a full term after that. And then the 3rd one would start on July 1st, which is the beginning of our term year. We're chartered by ordinance. Our meetings are monthly. We meet from 6 to 7:30. We have in-person meetings at City Hall in January, April, July, and October. Those are actually hybrid meetings. And then we have virtual meetings on the other months. The mission of the organization is to advise City Council on programs and activities that are related to veterans, military families, and within our community. So we try to have the tools we need to make those recommendations. This is a discussion about the appointment process. The current appointment process says that if a person is appointed for less than half the term remaining, then that doesn't count as a term against the 3-term limit. But at the end of that term, they have to apply to be reappointed, even though that's not a full term. The challenge that we just went through was for Commissioner Linda Savage, and she applied on November 11th. We made a recommendation to council on the 14th of December, and then on the 12th of February, council approved her through June 30th. Each time we go through this over the last 3 years or so that I've been the chairperson, I learned something new about the rules that apply to appointments. And what happened was when she was appointed through the 30th of June, that did not include the next full term. So we had to resubmit her application again for a term that started on 1 July. We did that on the 14th of February, and on the 8th of April, council approved her for a full term starting July 1st. We kind of think that's a lot of work for very little gain. And so for the 3 nominations that you have coming, Davila and Garcia are the ones for immediate. My request to council is to appoint them immediately for, say, the 20th of May, plus a full term without making them come back and reapply within the 6 weeks remaining on the current term. The last nomination for Covey is one to start on July 1st for a full term. So we're hoping that you will work with the city clerk's office and the staff to try to streamline this process so that people who do not serve a full term do not have to go back and reapply again, especially these folks who are within months of the end of the term. This is a list of who we are. The 2 people in blue are the 2 vacancies that are going to occur in May and also on the 1st of July. Cynthia Francis has been on the commission. I'm sorry, I don't see your faces.
This
but
is Councilmember Crystal Murillo.
Yep, I just moved over. Go ahead.
Yes, apologies. I didn't want you to get too far ahead before addressing that last point. I
Okay.
just wanted to get an opinion from staff on the issue that's being brought up here, and thoughts on next steps or what's feasible, what how we handled things in the past. If somebody could comment on that.
Councilmember Video, I'm looking at our attendees and it looks like we don't have anyone on. I don't know if Kendall, if you're on.
I am on, and I did hear of this. We are working with the city attorney's office to figure out what this change in the ordinance would be. So bear with us while we come together with an answer, but we have been working on this with the city attorney's.
Yes.
Okay, great. I think that's good enough for me, knowing that y'all are in contact and working through this, and curious to see what is possible.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, Ralph, back to you.
Thanks. So Cynthia's been on the commission since 2019. Well, before 2019, she was the chairperson that year. And she's decided that she's served long enough and she's got other interests, and she's going to start those on July 1st. Jeremy Campbell is our active duty member, and unfortunately our experience with an active duty member was not all that positive, not because of Jeremy, but because as soon as he was appointed by council, he was sent off to some place that he can't tell us. And he just returned, and he now has orders to go overseas starting in July or August. So he hasn't been a contributing member, not because he wasn't interested. He just wasn't in the right place at the right time. I'm still trying to get him to promote the commission to others at Buckley. Since 2024, this year, our focus has been on trying to outreach to veteran organizations. Last year in November, you saw the art display on the second floor, and we're planning that again for this November. We are trying to arrange town hall for the community, and the mayor has expressed a willingness to do that. He wanted to do that in concert with Congressman Crow, and literally 45 minutes ago, I finally got a date that Congressman Crow and the mayor are both available at the same time. So we now need to put a recommendation together to come in formally to do this, and you'll see that hopefully in the next month. We have proclamations this year. We've added a new one for April, which is Military Child Month, and the mayor presented, not the mayor, council member. Oh, for heaven's sakes, I can't think of her name.
Hancock, I believe.
Hancock was the one that presented the proclamation to folks from Buckley, including the basically the base commander. So we think that one went very, very well. We're trying to monitor legislation in the state legislature to see if there's anything that might be of interest to us that we could then recommend to city council. We had a couple of things this last year that we thought were important for council to look at. The legislative liaison people were already aware of those concerns. We've had a series of speakers on different topics. Last year, we heard about veteran suicide, a very interesting traumatic brain injury treatment program being offered up near Fort Collins by a group of highly qualified professionals using hyperbaric medicine that is being used elsewhere in the country, but they are probably the leading edge. We had an organization called Lighthouse talk with us. They're trying to put together a way for organizations in the community to share resources. Stephanie Iverson is a person at Buckley Air Force Base who is the liaison between the Buckley community and the school districts. And that program is called the Purple Star Program. And that's how we sort of moved into the April Child and Military Child Month, sorry. So she talked to us about the Purple Star Program, which is how school districts and state legislatures come together to make school districts more amenable to military kids who move and have different experiences throughout the year. I did a presentation on 2 studies that I did on women veterans for my doctoral program. And then last meeting, we had a City of Aurora Transportation Project, Intermodal Transportation Project. Liu come in and talk to us about that project. And we are trying to gather some information for his use on the project about veteran transportation issues. A couple of things that are on their way. In fact, I was told that we would maybe talk about them today. One is a recommendation to the parks community for discount access for disabled veteran to recreation facilities other than golf. We're hoping that that makes its way through. And then we have been struggling for the last 3 years or so, trying to find a way to figure out who are the veterans in the city. It's really hard for us to make a recommendation to city council about any particular veteran requirement if we don't know who they are, we don't know what their needs are. And we have not been successful in getting support to do various things. Some good reasons for not supporting our proposal. The latest proposal is a qualitative research study of Aurora veterans. That was turned in about a month ago, and it's an extensive project that we are going to offer to do as a commission, and there will be very minor expense, $15, $25 gift certificates to the 15 veterans that we interview as part of this project. So minimal cost. We already have money for that you've allocated. And so we're not asking for anything other than permission to move forward. One of the concerns that's come up over the last couple of months is how our recommendations get processed through the various steps to get to City Council. The latest direction that we received is for us to put our recommendations together and submit them and not worry about coordinating with city staff offices that might have an interest. For example, the discount access to recreation facilities, we were not allowed to talk to the parks folks about it before it got submitted. I find that very, very unsettling. The recommendations then that are coming from us are not completed staff work, and they then end up with delays as people try to figure out what it is we're talking about, and we go back and forth. And then I'm concerned that we are creating hard feelings between city staff offices and the commission, who are going, well, why is the commission making this recommendation without talking to us first? And so I would ask that we take another look at how this is done so that when it gets to city council, it's a complete product, and that we don't inadvertently offend a city staff office because we've done something that we thought was in the community's best interest without talking to the city staff members who really have a stakeholder issue. The last
Let me,
couple,
Ralph, do you mind if I interject one more time?
I don't mind at all.
Yeah, I would love to. Thanks for sharing some of your frustrations. I want to defer and or also call again upon staff. Maybe this is a Laura Perry DCM conversation to maybe comment on some of the concerns, you know, as a council member in a city manager form of government, right? I want to be mindful of those boundaries and processes. And obviously, as an advisory council, the 30 plus, community advisory councils, want to make sure that I'm also clear on kind of the boundaries and kind of who can authorize and or approve something. Is it in conflict? Does it support the work that's going on, and kind of what that process looks like? Admittedly, I'm a little bit unclear, and perhaps some of the hard feelings is just not being clear on what the process looks like, which can be very frustrating if folks are being told one thing and the process doesn't actually evolve the way we might think. I really am would just love for somebody to comment on what that looks like.
Sure, I can comment on the specific circumstance. So the recommendations were shared with the pros department. They were brought forward by city staff to city management, and they were shared with the pros department. The pros department did review them, and we've had a conversation about them. And there was knowledge that this presentation would be coming forward to you all today, and that you would all would be providing guidance on next steps as to where the proposal goes from here, if it goes to full council, if there's further direction to city management to further evaluate and bring back information. So that has been our conversation and process for this.
And I would comment that my concern remains that we turned in a recommendation without talking to the chief of pros about something that was clearly in her area. I fully expected it would go to her after we turned it in, just as you have explained. But I would have preferred, from my perspective, that the commission not turn in a recommendation that we haven't talked to the stakeholder about, because she could have easily said, well, you didn't think about this, whatever this might be. And we go, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense, which is what's happened in this committee a couple of times on some of our proposals from council members who said, well, what about? And the answer was, of course, that makes perfect sense. That was not a great recommendation. So we're taking up a lot of staff time and everything else. And I'm not in charge of the process. I'm just expressing my concern that we're turning in incomplete staff work, and I don't want to build conflict in hard feelings with city staff members who are going, what are they doing and why didn't they talk to us first?
Laura, can I ask or Councilmember Murillo, can I ask a follow-up question?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So I guess my question is in relation to this, like, I understand there may be reasonably boundaries about having commissions directly talking to department directors, but the role of the commission is really to be advisory to council. So would it be an appropriate way to kind of bridge this issue if we were to recommend that the commission reach out to a council member to kind of co-sponsor whatever program or recommendation they're trying to bring forward, and have the council member engage with the department director, because we do already engage with them on other issues?
Yes, I think that would be appropriate. And that was the approach today, and having the Veterans Affairs Commission present to you all to have you all determine sponsorship in that next step. And then we can further flesh these recommendations out. But I do want to assure you all that these have been shared with the pros department and have been reviewed.
Great.
Can
That's
just
helpful clarification, I think, and a great recommendation, Councilmember Coombs. I think process can be kind of confusing, and just being clear on kind of the order of operations, I think makes sense. Yeah, I think, Ralph, did you want to chime in on that?
only thing I would ask that you be thoughtful about as you go down that direction is this. We have had a couple of things where we've talked to a member of city council who said, I don't support that. We're not doing that. It doesn't get a hearing by multiple people. It only gets hearing by the one person we've spoken with. And so the idea gets squashed really quick, which might be a good thing. I mean, wasting everybody's time for nothing. But I am concerned that maybe the value of having this kind of a committee where there's multiple views expressed and people can look at it from different perspectives allows for a maybe a more comprehensive or thoughtful approach than one person saying, I don't like that idea for whatever
Councilmember
reason.
Coombs, yeah, no, I hear you. Councilmember Coombs, were you suggesting that they reach out to a particular council member, or to all, or it's their prerogative, the commission's prerogative, to kind of decide who they would engage?
I mean, I think it would be the commission's prerogative. Obviously, there would be the question if they sent it to all of council about the potential of creating a quorum or a public meeting. So I think that's something folks would have to be cautious about, and it might end up being a lot of work to reach out to all of council, because I think since it's substantive policy matters, reaching out to all of council at once probably isn't advisable from that standpoint. But I do think that, you know, it's not necessarily a bad idea to reach out to a few people, because one council member might say, no, I don't support that, but another council member may be willing to champion the same thing. And so, and even folks that broadly tend to agree on things may disagree on your particular issue. And so one person might reject it while the other might be able to kind of gain the support of the rest of council. You know, I understand nonetheless kind of the desire to have that direct engagement with staff. I think, you know, and it would be up to staff to comment on this, but I think as Councilmember Murillo mentioned, with having 30 boards and commissions, we do have to be thoughtful about the department director's time and kind of capacity to have those conversations. And so I still think that it may be worth kind of using the kind of fact of you all being advisory to council to reach out to council members as sponsors, and if one person says no, to kind of move on to other folks.
Councilmember Medina, did you want to comment as well?
Yes, if I could. Yeah, I've been part of that process early on too, so I got wind of that obviously, and so I've been working with pros to look into the information there, and certainly the fiscal note and things of that nature to look into those things. So yeah, I mean, I've been a part of that, and I think tomorrow's meeting or Thursday's meeting, yes, which is tomorrow. Yeah, we'll probably be discussing some of that as well. So
just one other comment to sort of frame our perspective about the incomplete staff work. You have hopefully 12 people who have spent time in the military. Most of us have spent more than one time too. Our training, our culture, our approach is you don't give your boss something that isn't complete. And so this issue of complete staff work is ingrained in this commission in particular, that it just is just abrasive to have to turn something in that we know is not finished. And so it's a culture thing, that's all. Okay, the last thing is we would love to have you come to our meetings. I know you're very, very busy and this is not a full-time job, but we still would love to have you come to our meetings. We'd like you to continue as you have done to promote our vacancies. Thank you for doing that. And then my final request is that this is a resolution from 2013 that talks about board terms, and we are covered by the 3-year board term. And the issue for me here is that a person who serves 3 terms cannot serve a 4th term without taking a break, even if there's nobody waiting. And we've been asking for an update. City clerk's office has said that won't be an issue. And my concern about that is that while I believe the city clerk is in charge of this policy, I'd like to see something more in writing. The other component of that is there's a exception that you'll see in red for professional qualifications are exempt from term limits. And we will eventually be coming to council asking for you to concur, or city staff to concur with our definition of professional qualifications. We've all served in a particular profession, and we believe we've met the requirement for professional qualifications and should be exempt from the term limit issue. which would solve it for us, but it won't solve it for other boards in commission. And then we've already talked about the last two bullets, and I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions at this time?
You do have the city clerk's office with their hand raised.
Katie?
Yes, Councilmember Murillo, thank you. Katie Rodriguez, City Clerk. I just wanted to address a point that Ralph had brought up about term limited members. If a member is term limited and nobody else applies for a vacant position on that board or commission, that member is eligible to fill a vacancy so that it's not just sitting there. So that is something that they're eligible to do.
Great, thank you.
Can how many times can like that they re-up on that? Like,
yeah, so they can keep serving as long as nobody is applying for that vacancy. And then
Gotcha.
once somebody does apply and they get appointed, then that board or commission member's term, they'll have to wait a whole nother term before reapplying to the commission. Then it'll start, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. If they apply, if somebody else applies and are not selected, does that still, like, that rule still apply, or is it is any application? Because, you know, people will apply, but not everyone actually like gets appointed.
Correct. So they would only be able to fill that vacancy if nobody applies. If they have no applicants, nobody's interested, then the
Okay.
term limited member has the ability to fill that vacancy.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so to be clear what you just said, there's a vacancy, person is term limited. We have an applicant. We do not recommend they be approved by city council, so they don't go forward. But even in that circumstance, the person who's term limited could not reapply for that position. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, that's what I heard and understood too. Thank you.
So we'd be with a forced vacancy.
It is your prerogative to have that forced vacancy because the commission is choosing to not appoint that person or ask council to appoint that person.
Yeah, we would only do that. We've only done that once that I know of, and there's no way you would have wanted that person on the commission. Actually, twice. And there's no way you would have wanted that person on the commission. So we don't do that lightly.
Thank you, City
Thanks.
Clerk, for that. And I hope that that was at least clarification on process that, you know, at least I can offer that in this time. I saw that the cover letter for this agenda item was information only, but just hearing you, Laura, that you are looking for some council guidance, I want to make sure that I'm clear on what we're asking for guidance on. I got a little bit lost between a lot of the different like asks. So want to make sure I'm clear from everyone on what you'd like some direction on.
Yes, I can speak. So this was both the Veterans Affairs annual report as well as a summary of their recommendations. So Ines, if you could share the screen again and go to Ralph's slide with their recommendations for me. Oh, next. Yep. One above it. Yes. So these are the ones that Ralph walked through. Obviously, the first two, the discount access to recreation facilities and the qualitative study. And I believe, Ralph, you had a backup summary that you prepared for council members as well, which provided additional details about these items. Is that correct? That was in the packet.
We made a formal recommendation. So yeah, I guess that's what it's called. What you just referred to. Yes, we have, that should be in somebody's packet.
Yes. And so I think we're looking for direction from council today on how and if council would like to move these forward. If you all would like staff to further evaluate these, Council Medina is bringing forward a proposal tomorrow on one of these items to the Parks Foundation Quality of Life Committee for conversation.
Gotcha.
Or if you would like these to be referred on to the broader council at a study session for conversation, that's also a third option.
Okay. Is it the discount access to recreation facilities that we'll be talking at pros?
Yes.
Okay, because then I guess we won't really address that here since it's already being discussed. Let's see, the qualitative study of Aurora veterans. I'm trying to piece together the information I heard is that you already have funding and you're looking for authorization. I guess if it's at that point, I would defer to city staff. I guess I think the recommendation that I think makes the most sense, I'd love to hear any alternatives from the other council members, is to get some more information or an evaluation from city staff. Like I feel like I'm missing something. And would like, yeah, I'd be interested in hearing more. Council members, Coombs, Medina, how's that landing for you?
I mean, I think my recollection is that this is something that the commission's been working on for some time, and it's pretty comprehensive what they already have kind of put forward. So I would support just authorizing them to move forward. I think they have a really strong framework that was sent to us in the backup. So I wouldn't really support kind of putting any delay before them in terms of just being able to pursue their work in interviewing the folks that they want to interview and putting together a report, because they're just, I think, doing a high level of due diligence in making recommendations. You know, in some cases, folks might make recommendations just based on the experience of the members of the commission. And they're really trying to make sure they gather additional feedback to help make the best recommendations to us that they can. So I just think that it would be better to give them our seal of approval to move forward.
I hear you. Can I ask, and I'm not opposed to that, but I want to make sure that I'm clear on like any involvement that city staff has had in crafting this. Like obviously, like I know this is the work product of the commission, but we've been talking about like, has city staff had a chance to weigh in on this? It doesn't have to be a formal thing, but I just want to make sure I'm clear on that.
I'm going to ask Ryan Lance if you can help address this one.
Yes. Good afternoon, Council. We've been supporting Ralph and the Commission's initiatives with this one. This one is different than a previous proposal that happened a couple of years ago, I believe, Ralph. But this one, from a qualitative standpoint, we've reviewed it and we support it from a staff standpoint.
All right, that's I think what I needed to hear.
There are two things, though, I want to make clear, because you're talking about staff support. There is an issue unresolved in the proposal that has to do with the maintenance of the records that are created by this project. And we were trying to get an answer from city staff that would explain what the policy is going to be, because we're going to want to explain that to the people who we're going to interview. This records will be publicly available. No, they won't, whatever it is. We're not asking for a particular approach. We just want to know what it is, so that in the informed consent, we will be able to explain that. So that's not complete. The second piece that's going to require help.
Well, actually, let's hold off real quick, Ralph. Can we get a comment on that particular thing?
Katie Rodriguez, Ryan Lance, if you want me to jump in and help a little bit,
yeah.
We do maintain all the records for the city. So this is the first time I'm hearing about this, but I believe that if this project does move forward, any of the records that would be created or maintained by the board and commission would be also maintained by the staff liaisons. And so that would be going into our records retention schedule, and we would keep those like we keep any other city documents or records. And once we get further into the details of what types of records, then we can give more information as to what's public and what would be redacted.
And
Okay,
that's
so
in the proposal.
well,
The answer
it
to her
might be a
question.
proposal from yours, a suggestion, but there might be some legal reasons
Yes.
why that might not be the same. So it's
Agreed.
so that when I say I want to make sure, like, I agree with Councilmember Coombs, like, I don't want to put any unnecessary barriers, but that's the kind of issue that I think we need to hash out in advance of this moving forward. I think, Ralph, you had one other point though, so I apologize for interrupting. I just wanted to make sure we were being very thorough and how we were responding. If you wanted to comment on that second item you wanted to share.
You're right on the first one. This can't go forward without that being resolved. So the second issue is the communications office support. We're going to need help from communications to get the word out to the veteran community that we are looking for 15 people to interview. We'll figure out how to screen them and everything else. We just need help with the marketing. And that's the only two major areas that I can recall that are involved in the proposal specifically. And you're absolutely right. This is going to need to go through legal and a few other people before everybody's happy with it.
So as far as communication is concerned, so this is where we start to dip into like programming people's like workflow and their time. And that's where I will defer to the city manager for more input. And maybe the answer isn't like clear at this moment. I think we're almost talking about the same thing. We just phrased it very differently. Like, I think I just want to make sure that like we cross our T's, dot our I's, those things are hashed out before moving forward. I support this moving forward. My preference is that we vet it through staff one more time to resolve these issues that we just delineated before doing so. I guess if I reframe my proposal that way and direction, Councilmember Coombs, does that like address some of the concerns that you brought up that I think I was pulling out from your comments?
Yeah, I think so, right?
Okay.
We don't want folks to be moving forward without appropriate guidance on those issues. But I also, don't necessarily think that if staff and the commission feel like they've resolved it, I don't know that it necessarily needs to come back here again.
I agree. Yes. Okay, so we're good with that. Actually, Councilmember Medina, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Awesome. All right. So, Ralph, that is the direction on that particular piece. I hope that makes sense and that is what makes sense and is amenable to you all.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
And did I miss another recommendation though? I think that you expressed some concerns with the process and that we've shared that, but I didn't think that there was a specific deliverable on that frustration that you expressed.
We have not made a recommendation about anything with the process that has these appointment issues. We will do so down the road a bit.
Okay, but I guess I'll ask you directly, have we addressed your concerns and recommendations or anything else we need to discuss that we need to discuss around giving staff further guidance on?
No, everything has been addressed. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, I'm glad we worked through that. Thank you, staff, for being ready to kind of work through that with me. I think that wraps us up. That was the last new business item. Any miscellaneous items for consideration? No.
None from staff.
Perfect. And then I think we're just confirming our next meeting, May 22nd, 3:30 to 5 p.m. That still works for me. Any changes needed? Councilmember Coombs, I'm seeing a nod yes. No changes from Councilmember Medina. All right, I think we're confirmed, and now we are adjourned. Thank you all for your time. Have a good
Thank
rest
you.
of your week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.